الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تبارك وتعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. Firstly, I would like to thank Hafiz Khubaib Sahab and for the Masjid Zakaria committee, Maulana Khurshid Sahab and all the other brothers for organizing this particular event. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give Hafiz Sahab and all the other muta'alliqeens of the masjid a great reward in this world and also in the hereafter. Ameen thumma ameen. As Hafiz Sahab mentioned, that today's talk and lecture is with regards to Karbala. In particular, the prelude of the entire event, the aftermath, and also exactly what happened, what led to Hazrat Husayn radiAllahu anhu's martyrdom, and also the aftermath of the battle, the various fitnas which then started in terms of the Shias, their ideology, and how Karbala, nearly 1400 years later, still has an effect in where we live now in the UK and also in the Western world. Now, before we can understand Karbala properly, the first thing to mention is regarding the ranks of the Sahabas, the virtues of the Sahabas. Now, in our religion, or according to the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we as Sunnis hold the Sahabas in a very, very high rank. We love the Sahabas. Not only do we love the Sahabas, we believe that if it wasn't for the Sahabas, the Deen and the Quran and the religion and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not have reached us. The Sahabas, they conveyed the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the actions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If it wasn't for people like Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha, we wouldn't have known so many sunnahs of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in particular in relation to things which goes on in the home. We only know this through the narrations given to us by Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha, narrations given to us by Salama radiallahu anha, narrations given to us by Hazrat Zainab radiallahu anha and Hazrat Hafsa radiallahu anha, and so on, and the rest of his wives. If it wasn't for the Sahabas, then battles such as the Battle of Badr wouldn't have been achieved. Because if there wasn't the victory of Badr, Islam wouldn't have existed anymore. We wouldn't have been gathered here. Our parents wouldn't have been Muslims. Because it's mentioned in the hadith of Sahih al-Bukhari that the day before the Battle of Badr, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he raised his hands towards Allah and he said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, oh Allah, if you are not worshipped, or if we don't achieve victory today, you would not be worshipped. In other words, the Battle of Badr was the differentiating battle between the haqq and the batil. So if the Muslims weren't victorious, then no one would be worshipping you any more further. And that is the Battle of Badr. Then we look at the sacrifices of the Sahabas. Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu giving all his wealth away during the Battle of Tabuk. Then we look at after the Battle of Uhud, when the Sahabas and the Muslims were defeated. But when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made another announcement that the enemies of Allah are amassing the troops to attack the Muslims again, 70 Sahabas, they responded to the call of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to wage war against the enemies, to wage war against the Makkans, to wage war against the Quraysh and the Mushrikeens. So alhamdulillah, the Sahabas, they have done so much, and if it wasn't for them, we would not be in the position which we are in today. There wouldn't have been a Quran. They compiled the Quran. Hazrat Uthman radiAllahu anhu, he compiled the Quran which is in front of us. So all that was down to the effort of the Sahabas. And that's why it's mentioned a hadith which can be found in Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Do not insult my companions. La tasubbu ashabi." And Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that if any one of you were to spend Mount Uhud full of gold, you will not reach a mud of theirs or half a mud. Now just to make everyone understand, mud is a small bowl. So just for everyone's understanding, think of a mud to be equivalent to a pound donation. So what Prophet ﷺ is trying to say is that if all of you were to spend millions and billions of pounds and you were to give it to charity, it would not be equivalent to a pound or half of that, i.e. 50 pence of the charity given by the Sahabas. Why? Because of their rank being so high and so great. So alhamdulillah, we as Muslims, we love the Sahabas. You know, we need to understand that the deen came to us via the Sahabas. The reason why I'm speaking about the Sahaba is maybe thinking, well, Mufti Sahib, aren't you talking about Karbala and Hazrat Husayn radiallahu ta'ala? Why are we talking about the Sahabas? Reason why I'm mentioning about the Sahabas is there will be some aspects of the stories which will be related to the Sahabas. And there may be some brothers here who may think to themselves, Acha, you know, Sahabas, they were having ikhtilaf, they were having differences. The Sahabas, they were fighting with each other. How can that be? So I just want to make everyone understand that yes, differences of opinions happen. But just because there were differences amongst the Sahabas, it does not give us any right to criticize the Sahabas. Yes, ikhtilaf happens. Ikhtilaf happened between Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Shafi. It doesn't mean now we as Hanafis are allowed to criticize Imam Shafi rahimahullah. Ikhtilaf happened between the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ikhtilaf sometimes happened between the companions. But it doesn't allow us to think to ourselves that, Na'udhu we are better than the companions and we have a right and we have a haqq to say something against the Sahabas. So I just thought I'll just start today's lecture by saying a few things about the Sahabas, so everybody understands that yes, there will be some aspect of the story related to the Sahabas. Shaitan may put some doubts into you thinking, Acha, you know, the Sahabas had ikhtilaf amongst themselves. That's not good, that's not according to their majesty and according to their honor. So then the next day we may start saying bad things about the Sahaba. We may start insulting them. So what I want to say to everyone is that no types of insults, no types of disrespect, no type of badtamizi against the Sahabas is allowed, full stop. We love the Sahabas. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have been in this position as we are now. Now, the martyrdom of Hazrat Husayn radiallahu ta'ala anhu is actually a very, very detailed and long story. Books have been written. And we don't have time whatsoever to go into the detailed analysis of this martyrdom. Bearing in mind, Isha is also very, very soon as well. So we have to condense the lecture. So the sources which I'm going to provide to you in terms of the materials which were used for today's lecture are given by two very famous historians, but they are also very famous muhaddithin and mufassirin as well in their own right. They are Hafiz bin Hajar rahimullah and Ibn Kathir rahimullah. So most of the information will be from these two reliable sources. There are also Shia sources available, and Shias use a kitab, a book called al-Husayn. al-Husayn. And this book has been written by a Shia called Abu Mikhnaf. Abu Mikhnaf. Now, Abu Mikhnaf wrote this book many years ago. Many centuries ago, he wrote this book. But the original copy perished. They didn't have printing in those days. They didn't have Word documents where you could just save it. They didn't have WhatsApp messages where you could just store it somewhere. So when that book perished, the people afterwards, they compiled another book with the same title, al-Husayn. But in that second version of the original book, they just added fabrications on. So the original book, I'm not saying the original book was correct, but the current book we have, what we can say for sure, is the current book which they use is full of fabrication, full of lies, Shia sources. Some things are true, some things aren't true. So therefore we have to go back to the reliable sources, and that is of Hafiz bin Hajar rahimullah and Ibn Kathir. Now, to set the scene, we need to go back to the very beginning, and we need to understand a bit of lineage history. When we understand that, hopefully the story will make a bit more sense, because one of the things about the story of Hazrat Husayn radiAllahu anhu, why people don't understand it, is we look at the story when the actual battle happens. But the thing is, it doesn't make sense then, the story. You need to go back into time, go back into lineage, the ancestors. You need to understand how that worked. Then you need to understand chronologically and then what led to the story. If you just talk about the battle and Karbala, many of you will probably leave today's lecture with more questions than answers. So we don't want to have brothers or sisters having any questions or any objections. Now, if you look through the lineage of the Quraysh, you find a person, again this is still concise what I'm saying, you find a person called Abd Manaf ibn Qusay. Abd Manaf ibn Qusay. Now Abd Manaf had many sons, but just for today's lecture, he had two sons. One was called Abd Shams, and the other one was called Hashim. One was called Abd Shams, and the other one was called Hashim. Abd Shams, again, had many sons, but again, just for today's lecture, he had a son called Umayyah. Umayyah ibn Abd Shams. Again, Umayyah had many sons, but for today's lecture, he had two sons. So let me start. Abd Shams had a son called Umayyah, and Umayyah had two sons. One of them was called Abu Sufyan. Everybody knows Abu Sufyan bin Harb. Everybody knows, very famous. And from Abu Sufyan, you then have Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala an, and Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala an, who had a son called Yazid. So that's how it all works. So you have Umayyah. Umayyah had two sons. One of them was called Abu Sufyan. So from Abu Sufyan's lineage, you then have Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala an, who converted to Islam 8th Hijri. And then you have his son Yazid, who I will talk about later. Umayyah also had another son. So one was Abu Sufyan on this side, and then he had another son called Abul As, or Affan as well. We'll call him Affan, so it makes sense. And then Affan had a son called Uthman. So you then have Uthman bin Affan radiallahu ta'ala, who is the third Khalifa of Islam. The reason why I'm mentioning this is to inform that Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu and Hazrat Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, they were like cousin brothers. And this was the main contentious issue when Hazrat Uthman radiallahu ta'ala got martyred, which then led to the battle of Jamal and Siffin. I know this may be a bit above for some of the younger members of the audience, but it's important that we know that this led to another battle called Jamal and Siffin, which happened during Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu's time. And the contentious issue was that Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu felt that Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu was not bringing the killers of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu to justice. Because obviously Hazrat Uthman and Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu were from the same background, were from the same family, and this family or this dynasty is known as the Umayyad dynasty. So when you look through history books, when they say the Banu Umayyah or the Umayyad dynasty, they're referring to Hazrat Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, referring to Abu Sufyan, Hazrat Muawiyah, and so on and so forth, Yazid bin Muawiyah also. So that's that side of the family then. Going back to the top, I said that Abd Munaf had two sons, yeah? One was called Abd Shams and the other one was called Hashim. Now, everybody's heard of the Banu Hashim. So the Banu Hashim or Hashim, he had many sons. One of his sons was called Abdul Muttalib. And Abdul Muttalib, everybody knows, had 10 sons. Famous ones, just for today's lecture, will be Abdullah, Hazrat Abdullah, Prophet ﷺ's father. And he had another son, Abdul Muttalib, called Abu Talib. And everybody knows from Abu Talib you have Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala anh, and then Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala anh, who had two sons. They were Hazrat Hassan and Hazrat Husayn. So that part of the family are known as the Banu Hashim. Banu Hashim. So you had two family here. One was the Banu Umayyah, Umayyads, they are known as in history. And then you had the Banu Hashim. And as I'm sure we experience this living in our own Indian subcontinent, Desi culture, that sometimes cousin brothers or uncles, they sometimes have a bit of rivalry, not rift, rivalry. You know, sometimes some uncles, they pride on the fact that my son, my daughter is a doctor, my son, my daughter is a lawyer, my son, my daughter is this and that, over another family who perhaps their sons and daughters are not doctors or are not lawyers, are not solicitors. So there's a bit of rivalry. So likewise, the Umayyad family and the Banu Hashim, the Hashim family, they had what we call a bit of rivalry, not ikhtilaf. There was just a bit of rivalry between them. Now from the Banu Hashim, or part of the Banu Hashim, you have another title, another special name given to a special group of people. And this name is the Ahl Bayt. You have the Ahl Bayt, which is normally translated as the Prophet ﷺ's household. Now there is actually fazilat regarding the Ahl Bayt, Prophet ﷺ's household, in the Holy Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to remove from you the filth, ritz. Ahl al-Bayt, i.e. the Ya is hidden here, all people of the household, And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to cleanse and purify you. Now, you then have another ikhtilaf, another difference between Shias and Sunnis regarding what is the definition of Ahl Bayt. When we say Ahl Bayt, who do we mean? Who do the Shias mean to be Ahl Bayt, and who do we as Sunnis mean to be Ahl Bayt? Now the Shias, they give the meaning of Ahl Bayt a more restricted meaning. And from the Ahl Bayt, they say that Ahl Bayt means Hazrat Fatima radiallahu anha, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Hassan and Husayn radiallahu anhuma, and obviously their progeny and children. So when Shia say Ahl Bayt, this is what they mean. Hazrat Fatima radiallahu anha, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Hassan and Husayn radiallahu anhuma. Now yes, Shias got their dalil, they've got evidence. Their evidence is actually a hadith which can be found in Sahih Muslim, known as the Hadith Ahl Kisa, where basically once Prophet ﷺ, without going into too detail in the hadith, he once had a cloak, a shawl, a chadar, and underneath this chadar, or over, like using the chadar, he then covered Hazrat Fatima, Hazrat Ali, Hazrat Hassan and Husayn radiallahu anhum ajma'in. And Prophet ﷺ said, these are my Ahl Bayt. It's a hadith. It's in Mishkat al-Masabi, it's in Sahih Muslim, Tirmidhi, very famous hadith. So the Shias use this story or this incident to say that Ahl Bayt is just referring to them for individuals. And obviously their progenies, their descendants later on will also be classed as the Ahl Bayt. So this is what the Shia say. The Sunnis, on the other hand, they take a more generic approach of the term Ahl Bayt. The Sunnis say that Prophet ﷺ's wives are from the Ahl Bayt. So all Prophet ﷺ's wives, Hazrat Aisha, Hazrat Hafsa, Salama, Hazrat Zainab, all of them are Ahl Bayt. Likewise, we as Sunnis say that Prophet ﷺ's male children are also from the Ahl Bayt. Ibrahim, Qasim, Abdullah, they are also from the Ahl Bayt. We also say that Prophet ﷺ's other daughters, the Shia just says Hazrat Fatima, we say that Prophet ﷺ's other daughters, other three daughters, are from the Ahl Bayt. I.e. Hazrat Zainab, Hazrat Ruqayya, who was married to Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu, and then she passed away sadly during the Battle of Badr, and Kulthum. So we say they are also from the Ahl Bayt. And we also say that the Banu Hashim are from the Ahl Bayt as well. So all the children of, say, Abu Talib, Hazrat Ali, Hazrat Ja'far radiallahu anhu, Ali Ja'far, Ali Aqil, they are also from the Ahl Bayt. So we take the meaning of Ahl Bayt to be a bit more broader. Shia just limited to those four individuals. We say Ahl Bayt is basically more or less all the Banu Hashim. And we Sunnis, and this is very, very important to understand, because the misunderstanding which is out there, which is obviously given by Shias but also on the internet, is that we Sunnis are khilaf Ahl Bayt. And this is not true. We love the Ahl Bayt more than, you could even argue and say, more than the Shias. We love and respect the Ahl Bayt more than anyone else. Yes, we love all the Sahabas, but then the Ahl Bayt, there is a more distinct or a special rank with regards to them. And when we look at the Sahabas' lives, In particular, the two main Sahabas, Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu. As I'm sure you know, Shias, they say that, they kind of curse Hazrat Abu Bakr, Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhuma. The reality is that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, they actually loved the Ahl Bayt more than their own children. It's mentioned in the hadith of Sahih al-Bukhari that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said that I rather maintain ties and keep connection with the Ahl Bayt than create or have connection with my own family members. So he's saying that I rather have connection with the Ahl Bayt than have connection with my own family. And I'll tell you something even more ajib is Umar radiallahu anhu, he married Kulthum, but not any Kulthum. This is the Kulthum who was the daughter of Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu. Hazrat Ali afterwards, after Hazrat Fatima passed away, he got married to other women. So there was a daughter called Kulthum he had, and it's mentioned that Umar radiallahu anhu married her. Why did he marry her? Just on the basis that I want some kind of ta'alluq and connection with the Ahl Bayt. So do you know this notion that, Hazrat Abu Bakr, Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhuma did not like the Ahl Bayt, there was animosity between them? It's all lies. They were actually, in the case of Umar radiallahu anhu, he actually married someone from the Ahl Bayt. And as Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu would say that I want to keep and maintain close ties with the Ahl Bayt than I would do with my own family and with my own children. And this is why a couple of hadiths I'll mention about the fazilat of the Ahl Bayt. First hadith which can be found in Tirmidhi, narrated by Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, where Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Ahibbuni li hubbillah, which means love me. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying that love me because of the love for Allah. And then Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, wa ahibbu ahlal bayt li hubbi, and love the Ahl Bayt because of my love. In other words, if you love me, love the Ahl Bayt. Because I love the Ahl Bayt, you love the Ahl Bayt as well. Because we always talk about ittibai sunnah, following the sunnah. If you are following the sunnah, and if we are all claiming, as we all do, us all Sunnis, that we love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that then means by default that we also love the Ahl Bayt as well. In another hadith, which Ibn Adi has mentioned, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu ta'ala an, when it says, Man abghadana ahl al-bayt fahuwa munafiq. Man abghadana ay ahl al-bayt fahuwa munafiq. That the one who has animosity, hatred with the Ahl Bayt, fahuwa munafiq, he is a munafiq. So from these two hadiths, what we can understand is actually, we Sunnis, it's a sign of being a Sunni. It's an alamat of being a Sunni is that you love the Ahl Bayt. If you love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you must love the Ahl Bayt. There's no ifs or buts regarding that. We've unfortunately, perhaps due to not explaining the situation to the general public, we've made it as though that the Ahl Bayt are Shia exclusive. That if you love Ahl Bayt, it means you're a Shia. And not loving Ahl Bayt means you're a Sunni. A'udhu billah. It's not true. We should love the Ahl Bayt. If, say for example, one of the things which I really want to mention in today's lecture, yes, as al-Husayn radiallahu anhu, martyrdom, but also this virtue of the Ahl Bayt. Seriously, it's really lacking. We'll talk about all the other Sahabas in detail. And we'll just talk about Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu and bas, that's it. We don't even hardly talk about Hazrat Fatima radiallahu anha. Hardly talk about Hazrat Hassan and Husayn radiallahu anhuma and their children and their progeny. Hazrat Ja'far radiallahu anhu, Muhammad bin Hanafiya, Hazrat Husayn and Hassan radiallahu anhuma's children, Muslim ibn Aqiq, for argument's sake. Many of these people we don't even mention, we don't even know they exist. And this is sometimes perhaps because of our shortcomings, us ulama shortcomings, that we don't go and tell the general public about the Ahlul Bayt, that it's now become such that when we even talk about Ahlul Bayt, people start automatically saying, oh, has he become Shia or something? Nauzubillah. Ahlul Bayt is a sign, loving Ahlul Bayt is also a sign of being a Sunni. You talk about Ahlul Bayt doesn't mean you become a Shia, Nauzubillah. So also keep this in mind as well, that loving Ahlul Bayt is also very, very important. Now, moving along with the story. Now, one thing to mention is, so we can understand the next part of the topic, is something known as fitna. Fitna, mischief. And fitna is what we call a decree, and it's a judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everyone in their various ways are getting tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every single one of us sitting in this masjid now, perhaps sisters are in the back as well, sitting there. Every one of you are going through various trials and tribulations. It could be some of the youngsters here who've got the pressure of SATs, who've got the pressure of GCSE. That's a trial and tribulation for them. For those who are older, it could be marriage problems. For those who are older, it could be problems with parents. Those who are older, it could be financial problems. So every single one of us, in our own way, according to our taqat, according to our ability, we're going through various problems in life. We don't have to say it, but we are. But why? Why do we go through problems for? We are Muslims, we are the chosen ones. Why do we go through problems? So the reason why we go through problems and masa'ibs and trials and tribulations is so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can distinguish the true believers from the not so true believers. Now the Sahabas, I've already spoken about their fazilat. They also went through trials and tribulations as well. The Tabi'eens afterwards also went through trials and tribulations. But in fact, the ones who are more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala go through more trials and tribulations. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, he went through trials and tribulation, didn't he? He was thrown into the fire. He was then put into a trial whether to sacrifice his son or not. Prophet ﷺ went through many trials and tribulations, which obviously we don't have the time to get into. So everyone goes through trials and tribulations. Now, the trials and tribulations which the Sahabas went through was this kind of civil unrest which happened after Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu was martyred. Actually, to tell the truth, it started when Umar radiallahu anhu got martyred. But I don't want to go into that detailed hadith because of lack of time. But then it started from Hazrat Uthman and Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu. It started. And this civil unrest or this kind of civil war which took place between the Sahabas in the later period of Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu's khilafat is something which was meant to happen. You know, there's some things where there's no answer to. Because again, some of you brothers maybe here, sisters behind maybe saying, well, Mufti Sahaba, why though? Why did the Sahabas had a bit of infighting? Why couldn't they just sit down, do a sulah? You know, there was like sulahs and peace treaties between the mushrikeens of Makkah and Prophet ﷺ. So if the mushrikeens and Prophet ﷺ could do a truce, a sulah, then why couldn't the Sahabas do one amongst themselves? But you know, sometimes there are certain things which just Allah willed it for it to happen and there's no answer to. We just have to leave that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a unseen wisdom and hikmat why the Sahabas were tested in that particular way. But going back to the point, as I was saying, that this was something which Allah meant it to happen. Because there's a hadith in Tirmidhi which we have studied recently, where Prophet ﷺ once made dua, and the first dua Prophet ﷺ made was, "O Allah, do not destroy this ummah, the ummah of Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do not destroy this ummah via a famine or a drought." That was the first dua. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted that dua. Number two, Prophet ﷺ made another dua, which is, "O Allah, do not destroy this ummah on the hands of an enemy other than us." In other words, not on the hands of a non-believing leader, individual, or a person. Again, Allah accepted this dua. The third dua Prophet ﷺ made was, "O Allah, may there not be civil war amongst us. May there not be any unrest and uprising between us Muslims." But for this third dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not accept. And this is why when we see all the civil wars which are happening at the moment, the uprising which are constantly happening in Libya, Syria, Tunisia, other places within the Arab countries, this is something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had decreed it was going to happen. And it started from the Sahaba time, started from Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu's time, which then led to the Battle of Jamal and the Battle of Siffin. I don't have time to go into those battles here. If we do, we'll be here until Fajr, and I'm sure everyone's got school, work, college tomorrow, so we don't have time to get into those battles. Now, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu was martyred in Ramadan 40 Hijri. When Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu was on his deathbed, so he got attacked by Abdul Rahman ibn Muljim. He attacked him. Again, I don't want to go into the story of how he got attacked. So Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu was on his deathbed. When he was on his deathbed, he said to the people that whoever you want to do bay'ah with, bay'ah means whoever you want to do a pledge with after my death, then you can do so. Now, just to make everyone understand, in those days, the way the umara and the leaders were chosen, they were chosen through bay'ah, pledge. It wasn't like in this day and age where you have like a general election and then you choose, or it's not like a monarch where it's hereditary. So when the Queen passes away, then King Charles will take over. Nothing like that. It was like whoever you think is fit for the role of being a Khalifa, being an Imam, being a leader, you do bay'ah on his hands, you shake his hands, and that's it. He has become the Amir. So Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu said that after I pass away, whoever you want to do bay'ah with, so he didn't really say anyone's name, whoever you want to do bay'ah with, go ahead and do bay'ah. Now, many people thought at that time that this is referring to his son, Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu. So the people of Kufa, because remember Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu passed away in Kufa. So the people of Kufa then started doing bay'ah with Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu. But this led to a split. The split was there from before. Because Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. So you can remember, Hazrat Hassan is from the Banu Hashim dynasty, and Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhu is from the Umayyad dynasty, the Banu Umayyah. So Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhu was still the leader, the governor of Sham, Damascus, these places. So in other words, you had two ruling parties of the Muslims. Yep, you had in Kufa, in Makkah, Medina, that area, who was still loyal towards Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, and after his death, to his son Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu. And in Sham and that kind of region, you then had Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. So everybody started doing bay'ah with Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu. Now, you had two different groups, 2 factions, 2 sects. So inevitably, what would have happened? It would have led to another war. So Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu gave up being a Khalifa. He said, no more. We as Muslims have suffered so much. Because remember, just before, there were 2 major battles. Battle of Jamal, Battle of Siffin. So Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu said, you know what, no more. We as Muslims can't undertake another civil war. So what Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu did was, he went to Hazrat Muawiyah and he gave up his leadership. He gave up his khilafat. He said, Hazrat Muawiyah, you take control. And then Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu went and he retired to Medina Munawwara. So he left Kufa. In other words, he left, you could say, politics, and he then went to Medina Munawwara. Now, the people of Kufa, who I will speak about later, they didn't like that. They were actually very upset. They were crestfallen. Because remember, Kufa was pro Ahl Bayt, pro Banu Hashim. But now, all that was under the Umayyads rule. It's like, say for example, if Birmingham was under the Labour Party and the Conservative took over and they bring their measures, austerity measures, this measure, that measure. So we, perhaps who follow the Labour Party, would not perhaps like all their rules and all their decisions. Whether it's about Brexit, no Brexit, this, that, we won't like it. So think of it to be like this, that the Kufans meaning the people of Kufa. Kufa, by the way, is a place in Iraq, which still exists nowadays, near the Euphrates River. They didn't like that Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu just literally gave up power, handed it over to the Umayyads, and now Kufa and Iraq have become a Banu Umayyad run dynasty, which they weren't happy with whatsoever. Obviously they couldn't do anything, but they weren't happy with Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu for giving up. So as I was saying that Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu, he went to Medina Munawwara, and it's mentioned in some narrations that his wife, or one of his wife, whose name was Ja'ada bint Ash'ath. Ja'ada bint Ash'ath. She wasn't a pro Ahl Bayt, she was a pro Khawarij. And again, I don't want to get into who are the Khawarij, but we'll just call them, they are those people who like to cause and stir trouble. So she was pro Khawarij, and it's mentioned that she poisoned Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu, and he passed away as a martyr in 50 Hijri in Medina Munawwara. Now, as I was saying, Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu gave up 10 years earlier his role as being a leader. So Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, for 20 years, from 40 to 60 Hijri, he ran over the Islamic Hukumat and the Islamic government. Obviously, there were many victories during his time. Rome was conquered, Iran was conquered, a lot of places were conquered. Constantinople was conquered, which I will refer to in a second, because Constantinople is modern day Istanbul, so Turkey, all the way up to Turkey. These places were conquered during Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhu's time. Now, just before Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhu passed away, he did something which has led to a very major issue, which was, you could say, the catalyst, the sabab of Hazrat Husayn radiallahu anhu's martyrdom. And that was that just before he passed away, he nominated his son Yazid to be the next Khalifa. Yeah, this is what he chose. He decided that my son Yazid will be the next Khalifa. And many Sahabas disagreed with that. Many Sahabas didn't like it because they thought Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhu was now making khilafat into hukumat. Khilafat into muluk. Muluk means like hukumat, leadership, rulership. He was making it hereditary. So like after he passes away, his son Yazid will be the next leader. And after Yazid passes away, then Yazid's son, and so on and so forth. So many Sahabas like Hazrat Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Husayn radiallahu anhu, who we're going to talk about, did not like what basically he was planning to do. So they were very, very upset at this. A few things regarding Yazid. Yazid was born in 26 Hijri. Yazid was born in 26 Hijri. So Yazid's not a Sahabi. He's a Tabi'i, fair enough. But he's not a Sahabi. And during Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhu's time, he sent his son for many expeditions. Like he made his son a commander of many, many battles, many, many armies. So he gets that experience and also he gets that respect in a way that, okay, he's a commander. Which then takes me on to a hadith which I want to discuss. Because it's mentioned a hadith which can be found in Bukhari, narrated by a female companion whose name was Haram bint Milhan. Haram bint Milhan. This hadith is also in Abu Dawud as well. And what happened was that Prophet ﷺ went to visit her, and she was removing nits from Prophet ﷺ's hair, and Prophet ﷺ fell asleep. Prophet ﷺ had a dream. In that dream he saw that a group of Sahabas were traveling on a boat and they were going to conquer a place. Then Prophet ﷺ woke up, he was happy. So Haram bint Milhan radiallahu anha asked Prophet ﷺ, what are you happy for? What are you smiling for? Prophet ﷺ explained that I saw a dream that a group of Sahabas were traveling on a boat like kings and they were conquering a particular place, and that this group are going to be forgiven. They're maghfoor, they're forgiven, they'll go to Jannah. So Haram bint Milhan then said, O Prophet of Allah, can I be from this group? Sahabi, female Sahabi, she's saying, can I be from this group? And Prophet ﷺ said, yes. Then Prophet ﷺ fell asleep again. And he had a similar dream. That a group of Sahabas are on a boat, they're traveling and they're conquering. Again, Prophet ﷺ woke up and said that, like he was happy. Same question, Haram said, what are you happy for? What are you pleased for? And then Prophet ﷺ explained, a group of my Sahabas, men and women, will be traveling and they'll be conquering a place and they will be forgiven, they'll be in Jannah. Haram bint Milhan then requested, can I be from that group? Prophet ﷺ said, no, you'll be from the first group. Now, the reason why I'm saying this hadith is, these two sea voyages which led to two battles, the first battle was the Battle of Qubrus, which is also known as Cyprus. And it's mentioned that this first battle, where this was the very first battle, the Sahabas traveled on a boat to go and conquer a place. This first battle happened in 28 Hijri, the Battle of Qubrus. Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu was the Khalifa at that time, and he sent Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhu as a commander in that battle. Now the second battle, the second sea voyage, is the Battle of Constantinople, Battle of Istanbul, which is in modern day Turkey. This happened in 52 Hijri. The Amir of this battle, or the commander of this battle, was Yazid. It was during Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhu's time, and he sent Yazid as the commander of this battle. And within this battle, there was a very famous Sahabi in the name of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiallahu ta'ala anhu was martyred in this battle. And as I'm sure all of you brothers and sisters will know, his grave is still where? In Istanbul, as we speak. Like, as we speak now, it's in Istanbul. A lot of people go to Turkey, and when they go there, they go and visit the grave of Hazrat Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So now, who was the Amir of this battle? Yazid. But the hadith of Bukhari and Abu Dawud says that all the people who participate in this battle will be forgiven. So does that mean that Yazid's been forgiven? That's what the hadith says in Bukhari and Abu Dawud. So how do we reconcile this? Now some Sunni scholars like Muhallab, he says that Nauzubillah, Yazid's been forgiven. He says that, which is a bit of an extreme opinion. Ibn Tin, another muhaddith, he says that Yazid's not forgiven. The best opinion has been given by our Hazrat Sheikh Mona Muhammad Zakaria Kandilwi rahimullah, the author of Fazail Amal. So Hazrat Sheikh has said that yes, Yazid is forgiven for his previous sins. So meaning, when did this battle happen? 52 Hijri. So 52 Hijri se pehle, any kind of gunas he did, by him going for this battle and conquering Constantinople, he will be forgiven. But what he did after 52 Hijri, i.e. the being responsible for martyring Hazrat Husayn radiallahu ta'ala anhu, his sins are not going to be forgiven for that. So I'll just clarify that yes, Yazid's name is from those who conquered Constantinople. The hadith of Bukhari and Abu Dawud says that he is forgiven, but he's only forgiven in terms of the previous sins and not for what he did later. Now moving along, in 60 Hijri, Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhu passed away. He passed away naturally. So according to his wish, Yazid is the newly elected Amir. Now some Sahabas, like Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he went and did bay'ah with Yazid. Why? Bearing in mind Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu is a very famous and a great Sahabi. He went and did bay'ah. But him doing bay'ah was not because he's a pro-Yazidi. It's not because he was anti-Ahl Bayt and pro-Yazidi, no. He did bay'ah because, like in the case of Hazrat Hassan radiallahu anhu, he didn't want any more fitna. He didn't want another civil war happening. He didn't want any more wars and battles. He didn't want any more issues. So he didn't agree with Yazid being the Amir, but based on those hadiths which we study in Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, of whoever is elected as an Amir, alaykum bis-sam'i wa ta'a, just listen and obey. Bas. So he just went, did bay'ah, and that's it. He wasn't pro-Yazid, but he didn't want to get involved in any more further turmoil and tribulation. Then there was another Sahabi whose name was Abdullah bin Zubair radiallahu ta'ala. So he revolted. He didn't agree with Yazid being the next Khalifa or the Amir. So he left Medina Munawwara and he went to Mecca. Again, there's another story about him which obviously we don't have time to get into. Then there was Hazrat Husayn radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Hazrat Husayn radiallahu anhu. Now Hazrat Husayn at that time was in Medina Munawwara. He was in Medina Munawwara. So the governor, now we need to understand this. So remember, all of the Islamic dynasty at that time was under Umayyad rule. So in each major city, Hazrat Muawiyah, Yazid had their governors stationed. Yazid was in Damascus at that time. He was in Sham. So when he got into power, Yazid told the governor of Medina Munawwara at that time, whose name was Walid ibn Utbah. Yazid told the governor of Medina Munawwara at that time, whose name was Walid ibn Utbah, that you summon Hazrat Husayn radiallahu anhu to your house, to your governmental office, and take pledge from him, take bay'ah from him on my behalf. Now Walid ibn Utbah, before he called Hazrat Husayn radiallahu anhu, he firstly took advice from Marwan bin Hakam. Heard of Marwan bin Hakam? So he was the previous governor. During Hazrat Muawiyah radiallahu anhu's time, the governor was Marwan bin Hakam. When Yazid took control, he's nominated Walid bin Utbah to be the governor. It's like, look, the way the politics work nowadays. You have Boris Johnson taking over. He's got his own cabinet. He's got his own staff, doesn't he? Like Minister of this, Minister of Education, Minister for Brexit, Minister of Home Secretary, and so on and so forth. And then if he was to leave and another person was to come, he'll bring his own people. So same way here, he took over now Yazid. He wanted to bring his own puppets in everywhere. So he chose Walid bin Utbah. So Walid bin Utbah decided to take mashwara from Marwan bin Hakam that, look, Yazid's telling me to call Hazrat Husayn and summon him and force him to do bay'ah. What do I do? So Marwan bin Hakam said to Walid bin Utbah that, look, Ibn Umar, there's three Sahabas here, three prominent Sahabas remaining. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, there's no threat. He's very sada, he's very simple person. There's no threat from Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. But Abdullah bin Zubair radiallahu anhu and Hazrat Husayn radiallahu anhu, there's a threat from them. So Marwan bin Hakam was trying to say that, look, take pledge from him soon, otherwise you'll have problems. So Walid bin Utbah, he summons Hazrat Husayn radiallahu anhu and he says to him, Chaliye, let's take bay'ah. He says, well, he didn't say no, he said, let me think about it. This was his answer. He said, Acha, let me think about it. So he went to think about it, but that night, Hazrat Husayn radiallahu anhu, he escaped Medina Munawwara and he went to Makkah. That night, he escaped Medina Munawwara and he goes to Makkah. Now, remember, Makkah is also under Umayyad rule, but they were more pro Ahl Bayt there. They were more pro Banu Hashim there. Like I said, it's like the way it works there. Sometimes you may have a puppet kind of governor, but you know the people you're dealing with, they don't like who you are. Yes. Just because you rule doesn't mean you agree with them. It's like I was in Palestine a few months ago. So same usul there as well. So in Masjid al-Aqsa it's all Muslims. Jerusalem, most places Muslims. But they're under Jewish rule. So it doesn't mean that the Muslims who are in Palestine, they like or they love the Jews ruling over them. So it's like that. So think of it to be Makkah. They had the administration were all